What's going on, fam? We're back. See, here's the thing. Toxic masculinity, especially in our community. So we're not just gonna focus on the brothers, we're gonna focus on the others. So we'll start this episode off by saying, in our own verbiage, what we think toxic masculinity is. So I'm gonna throw it to you, Carl. What's your definition of toxic masculinity?
Pop quiz.
Yeah, man, I wasn't ready for that. I I don't know. I don't and I've been thinking about this as we prepared for this show. I think toxic masculinity is defined by probably the women because they're going to determine what they feel is toxic. Because I'll say and I'm gonna give you an example of this. A man can say, "I want my woman to stay home, raise the family, and cook and clean, take care of the house." A woman can say, "Well, that's toxic because you're not allowing me to be my full self." However, you've got women out there, these new fangled women that's on IG, that's, all got tight dresses on and everything. And they say,
using filters.
exactly.
Okay.
And they say they want a high value man. And they gonna stay home and they'll raise the family, and every night he come home, he got something to come home to, and blah blah blah. Okay, so obviously that's that same man. She don't feel it's toxic. She feels that's what she deserves, quote unquote. So how do I know what is toxic?
Okay,
now,
so
I do have some ideas of toxic behaviors, and I'm sure we'll get into that.
Okay,
but,
so
good
you
point.
say that women define toxic masculinity. That's
Yeah.
your opinion. Okay. B, what say you?
Pop quiz question for me too. But I don't think there is even. I think the whole concept of toxic masculinity is a misconception, for one.
Why do you say that?
Because again, how are you pairing two adjectives together? What is it? Masculinity is an essence, right? And toxic is an essence. How are you combining this essence in a toxic masculinity? Why are we grouping that together? So my thing too is, again, I won't even make it just women, because there are some men that also claim toxic masculinity exists. Again, it's a feeling. And you know how I am about feelings. It's,
How
not
are
fact.
you about feelings?
Yeah,
It's a big difference between fact and feelings.
Can't know about feelings.
Okay.
I know how you feel.
But for the edification of this, I got on Google and just tried to look up toxic masculinity. It says it's a harmful set of beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors associated with traditional, what you were talking about, which was good, right? Traditional beliefs. These beliefs often promote dominance, aggression, emotional suppression, ultimately harming both men and women in society. But again,
that's a very vague.
Again, what is that?
Definition.
These are
So
all
we
adjectives.
We can drill down, because what I found was the definition that I found was similar to yours, B, but it said the way men are socially pressured and culturally trained to behave. This negatively, of course, impacts relationships.
Yeah.
And there were three main components they talked about with toxic masculinity. One being toughness. Don't cry. Real men don't cry. Okay. Another one was anti-femininity. Okay. Rejecting all feminine traits. And this is within men. Okay. And the last one is power, where men are only worthy if they have money, power, status, and influence. So those are some of the main components to this definition of toxic masculinity. What I'll say is the first thing I thought about when we talked about this was I split it up, toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So as men, what does masculinity mean to us? And for me, I can only go off of my environment, how I was raised, how I observed things that I was taught, from my dad, uncles, things like that. and you go to the toxic part. Toxic is bad.
Yeah.
So you're going to say bad masculinity, bad men,
That's where I'm
and
going.
for the three of us, I think we can only speak from a black man's perspective. However, fam, we going to touch on black men and, like I said before, the others. So I'd like to say that, Carl, when you talk about women defining toxic masculinity, I get the toxic part, but in terms of masculinity, are you saying that they're going off of their definition of what that man should be?
Yeah.
Bingo.
Because here, okay,
A real
and like you
man.
said, you get the toxic part. And that's what I mean by women defining toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
They're more defining the toxic part. Because, and here's a toxic, this is probably going to be toxic, me saying this.
Uh-oh.
A woman cannot tell a man how to be a man.
Amen.
But wait, how many times
Can we
do the
raise both
women
hands on
say
that?
a real man is gonna X, Y, and
that's
Z?
what and that's exactly
So,
what I'm saying.
What about
Where they get that
No,
from?
that's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. And this is I had a discussion just last night. I have 3 daughters.
Do tell.
And me and my daughter went back and forth on this for a good 20 minutes. Because I said, a woman cannot come into a relationship and say, well, as a man, you should do this.
Why?
As a man, because you can't tell me how to be a man.
So therein lies some what I consider to be issues that we have, especially in our community, because I don't know what it's like for white.
And I think, but I think that's across the board.
Okay, so when you go into that though, you can also incorporate that into, let's say, co-parenting. When you and your child's mother are separated, whether you guys are on a good level or whether y'all beefing going back and forth, inevitably, especially in our community, that mother's going to tell you what you need to be doing, not only as a man, but as a father.
And you can't do that.
They don't
understand.
understand.
And like I said, that people can say that's toxic because I'm trying to control a woman's behavior. No, I'm not. I'm just telling that woman, you can't tell a man how to be a man.
See, and that's one of the traits. Now, I found what they consider to be some signs, toxic masculinity. So I'm gonna ask you though, what would you think would be some signs of toxic masculinity? And where I'm going is from a perspective of toxic being bad. Masculinity.
Yeah, I get it. Again, I'm doubling down on my misconception. So if you ask me for an example, I'm gonna redirect and say what people are really trying to call toxic masculinity is maybe misogyny. Now that is defined as something that is toxic, right?
But that's a behavior.
Exactly. So misogyny is that toxic, like we were going to the co-parenting situation. That is the toxic treatment of women, the dislike of girls, etc. So again, I feel like if somebody is trying to label something as toxic masculinity, I think they need to peel it back some and see, are you calling out misogyny? And even then, is it really misogyny or is it just something you feel is not your cup of tea?
But when you say misogyny, quite honestly, I'd be willing to say 70% people I don't even know what misogyny means.
Bingo.
So we gonna use toxic, traits that they say, men with that toxic masculinity. And for us as black men, I can identify with some of these traits, not all of them. One of them is homophobia. Now, in our community, especially in the 70s, that was just, that's something you did not want to be called. And as a matter of fact, we talked about this some time ago, Carl, when we were growing up playing sports. You mess around, drop the ball, that's gay. It was a bad thing.
Dang.
So intrinsically, I go back to, part of the definition about, culturally.
Or if you weren't in the sports period.
There you go. Yeah. You wanted to hang out with the girls, and watch them go to cheerleader practice as opposed to being out here playing baseball, football, basketball. We talked about control, Carl. You mentioned that. And I found a study talking about basically the need for control, where, men are encouraged to assert their power and dominance, and often in relationships. I found a study that said 34% of men, surveyed in the U.S. believe they should have final say in relationships. And this was in 2018. 34%. Shut up, woman. What I say goes. Here's the one that got me. 46% believe that they should know where their wife and or girlfriend is at all times.
Is that for safety purposes?
So I say 46, but that's a high number. Because I know for me, if my wife leave out, she said, okay, I'm getting ready to leave. If she tells me, that's fine. If she doesn't, I'm not going, you ain't leaving this house till you tell me where you're going. Oh. I better not try that, but you know.
Again, so that's a woman defining.
See?
Because you can't ask me, but I can ask you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, of course.
If you ask me, that's a toxic trait.
Toxic femininity.
Promiscuity they put out there. Because I'm a man, I'm conquering women. I don't need just one. One can't satisfy me, because this is what I'm taught. I'm just risk taking, going against the grain, gambling, drug abuse, all of this. You just out there doing it.
Now, are these masculine traits or toxic?
Toxic masculinity.
Can't go to the casino.
These are signs,
They got the best buffet.
That's toxic.
Violence. And that's one that I looked at. Again, some of these, of course, family, I ain't not the violent part. That's not me, and that's not any of us. But there were some, because I honestly think that the majority of men have, if you want to go by this list of toxic masculinity traits, you can identify with something on this list.
But that's why I asked that, because some people will feel those are just masculine traits, period.
Bingo.
Violence?
Yes.
You don't like boxing, MMA, UFC?
No, I'm talking about whooping my woman's butt.
Oh, not against the woman,
but not domestic violence.
No,
we don't condone that.
But that's just it. Okay. That's one of the signs of toxic masculinity.
Domestic violence.
Yeah, okay.
But just violence in general, you should be willing to fight. You should be.
I mean, it's like little boys.
A lot of people
tackling people in the dirt.
Exactly, and violence. But some people, I know people who, we play football. We play football on the street. We did all that. I know people that do not play. They don't like being hit. They'll play basketball or something, and they don't even want to be too rough with that because they just don't like the physicalness.
Wow.
But they're not and see, that's what happens. That's what happens. You say, but I'm not saying they're not masculine. They just don't like being hit. I like being hit. So
when it comes to sports,
when it comes to sports,
that's another conversation for another episode.
But I mean, the physicality of football, the physicality of, that's why I resonated. I never watched basketball prior to the Bad Boy Pistons because I like that physical. Oh, you're gonna throw people to the ground? Nah, I'm interested. Okay, so that's me though. When somebody says they don't like that, I don't, question their masculinity. I just say,
Because one of the things, too, that the study talked about when it came to just violence overall, they say that 23% of the men polled believed that you should use violence to get respect.
See?
B, what are your thoughts?
That's a quarter of the
that?
people, really.
With that violence statistic, I mean, look how our world was kind of founded. If you go back in the day, men were conquering territories. So we kind of started that way. That's what I think. So again, you're going to go back in history and George Washington, Christopher Columbus, are these all, and then somebody going to say, yes, that is toxic masculinity. But I think that's
George Washington?
He was getting down.
Yeah, he went.
Yeah,
he had slaves.
Battle of Forge.
Yeah,
what's the Battle of
He
Valley?
got some violence in him too.
Forge?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a general.
Toxic masculinity. You can't be a general.
So and that's across the board when we talk about, for us as Black men, I want to talk about how we have had, if you want to say toxic masculinity, ingrained in us. Here's my thought on this. We can go back to slavery.
Okay.
And I think because I saw a study, I didn't bother to get the numbers because it pissed me off and I couldn't read any further. But they were talking about how, and it was a white man that did the study about how the black family has evolved into a matriarchal family structure, meaning mom is up here, the woman's up here. So I stopped reading it because of course, I don't agree with it. But when we talk about historical context for us as black men and toxic masculinity, I think that in terms of slavery, it's had a lot to do with it because what you had were black men that were basically emasculated
Mm-hmm.
in front of their wives, in front of
Mhm.
their families.
Yep.
So ultimately, for that black man to, in his mind, gain control, well, I'm going to assert this dominance over my wife, over my children. And over time, because it's been a learned behavior, it's been passed on from generation. Because I truly believe that the effects of slavery are going to be with us forever and a day. I never see that. I mean, some things I think will lighten up, but stuff like this, because even when you look at it now, the domestic violence statistics that we have, these are some angry young brothers.
It's generational behaviors.
Right.
So
So
it's taught down.
there
Yeah.
have
down.
been
Yeah, taught.
several things that, have affected us, even to the point of mental health, and our lack of reluctance to seek out mental health. But again, I go back to just toxic masculinity and where it is for us as black men. So let me ask you, do you feel that toxic masculinity is indeed a problem in our community, in your generation particularly? Because Carl and I mean, I know
I
it
mean,
is in ours.
yeah, and apparently, if you look at social media and the news, that's one of the big things you see. There's a consistent weekly stories about toxic masculinity. We're talking the other day about a Netflix show, Adolescence, which kind of highlights the byproduct of toxic masculinity. You got a little boy who absorbs all this manosphere content online, gets labeled an incel, and then I'm not gonna spoil the show, but the results are negative. You see today, I'm not gonna go into detail, but Andrew Tate, people like that, which be big cult followings of young men in my generation, a generation before, and the narrative is they're creating a huge army of in home watching on the screen breeding toxic masculinity. You see a lot of social media culture where it's just pushing this narrative of people are trying to promote masculinity, and then there's on the other side where people feel like it's toxic masculinity. So there's a pull back and forth. And then the mental health aspect, you see there's a men's mental health crisis. You see there's an uptick in what people claim are incels. These men are that are involuntarily celibate, and that has a bunch
I
of
was just going to
problems.
ask you, could you expound on incel? You ever heard of that?
Involuntarily celibate. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
go ahead.
I don't know too much, but yes, that's where the term derives
Hey,
from.
man, I
Well,
want to
yeah,
know. Teach me.
well, it's involuntarily celibate, and they believe these are men that are awkward when it comes to social issues. They want to be masculine, but they don't have masculine traits. And again, it leaks over into misogyny where they have a hatred for women because they don't do well with women.
Okay.
So you got a mixing pot of all these things going on today. It's a big issue, but again, I'm not going to say it's a toxic masculinity issue. I'm going to say it's a lot of different factors brewing in a pot, which causes social issues in men.
And see, I two things on that, and Carl, you tell me if you agree with this one. I think when it comes to toxic masculinity, what you're looking at a lot of times are men that have felt emasculated. So what they want to do is they're overcompensating for what they feel are masculine traits.
That can definitely happen.
But that's to me, that's when you said that, like,
Yeah.
they're awkward and they can't find. That's exactly what that is. Because there are women out there, just like there are men that are across the spectrum. And we all have seen it. You've gone out in public and you've seen a man and a woman, and you look at them, you be like, yeah, they misfits. But they're misfits
They
together.
found each other.
It worked out.
Both of them are just like as awkward as they can be. But they like, okay, it's somebody. Look at this, it's somebody for everybody. So if you're not, I guess, in the space where you can get the woman that you think you want or that you think you should have, then you might have some issue. But men and women have I've seen beautiful women who can't find a man.
There's something wrong with him.
And see, you'll say that
I wasn't gonna
it's
go there,
something wrong,
but
and you'll think it's like it's something wrong. But a lot of times they'll
somewhere
pick
it's a man that can't stand her.
they'll pick the wrong dude.
I know that
They'll pick the
feeling.
wrong dude because maybe they're not socially inept to find out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, you know, he said hi to me at the gas station, and I moved him in the next day, and you know,
Pardon? Oh, Lord
I
Jesus.
know he don't have a job, but he said he looking, and it's like,
He
wait a
working
minute,
on- he working
he
on
got
his
some
own.
It's
irons
like,
in the
wait a
fire.
minute, you did all of this because he said hi to you. You know, it's like,
But here's the thing: toxic masculinity in those situations, which we've already said that we've seen before, you have that he's not working, she's working. He's asserting his dominance at home. He's telling her what to do. He's telling her how this, that, and the third is going to work out. So I think a lot of times when women get in these situations where they have someone and there's this toxic masculinity, what ends up happening is once they leave that situation, it poisons
Bingo.
them for all the other men that they're going to come in contact with. Because if this guy used and abused me, then who's to say that you're not going to do it?
Because men are trash.
Again,
but you know
another
what? But you know what? That's why. Okay, when you using that example, I still question toxic. I question masculinity.
That's why I keep saying
in
it's
that
a misconception.
because if you are a man who is not, you know, you're not contributing to the relationship, but you want to assert your dominance, you're just pretending to be a man.
But see, that's the thing.
It's not
though.
really
Like you said that women are trying to determine what toxic masculinity is. In that case, this is the man that in his mind, this is what I see. This is my definition of masculinity. Me asserting my dominance, me controlling the situation. And one of the problems that I have with the whole toxic masculinity thing is, we were talking about influences. My God, the media,
Bingo.
they continue to push the narrative of the angry black man, which is one of the traits of toxic masculinity. So how do we combat that when you have all of these different forces saying these particular traits are toxic masculinity, and then when you're at work and you want to say something, you want to voice your opinion about a project, or Carl, you want to voice your opinion about, you know, some type of policy, you have to be tepid because you don't want to be labeled as what?
That's I feel
The
like that's
angry black man.
that's a dicey, but you can
but
go
when-
about it though. Go ahead,
Well,
Carl.
no,
No,
but
I'm
I'm
just gonna
saying
say-
there are ways that you can
Yeah,
do
you
it, but
can definitely go
because
about it.
the media and society has pushed this narrative, then it's something that we're always fighting against. You know, I've been told sometimes, even by family members, Eugene, your tone. What the hell you mean my tone? Oh, then I
Oh,
think
and that's
about
a
it.
big one of toxic
But
masculinity.
when,
We can jump
did
into
anger,
that one.
when did anger become toxic?
And the tone, when the tone, that's another one
It's
too.
an emotion.
I think when it makes people feel uncomfortable. And that's
Bingo.
why the media and white America can drive that narrative. You don't hear nothing about the angry white man.
What? Yeah, you do.
Well, no, because
That's the
they
serial
crazy.
killer.
They'll
Just-
chop up and
that's
shoot
the
and kill
serial
people.
killer.
Yeah, I was gonna say you
You don't want to hear about that.
But even the serial killer, they look so benign when they're on trial. They look just
He just had
sitting-
mental health
Now,
issues, and he
a-
needed.
a black dude can shoot one person in a liquor store. They bring him into the courtroom. His hair standing straight up over his head. He ain't shaved in like 6 months. I mean, he looks like
crust
he
in his
looks like a
eyes.
wolf man. You bring a dude like Ted Bundy into a courtroom. Oh,
He had a cult following,
he
I
had a
believe.
cult, and you know,
No, the one now. What's his name?
Julio.
Cornberger.
Oh,
with
and
the
Luigi.
stabbing. No, Cornberger.
I was
The
thinking
one-
Luigi.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to say-
with the stabbing, though, what they've done is they talking about,
yeah.
the
the
y'all
young
can't
black
seek
man.
the death penalty. He got autism.
Yeah. So so that
It's always
you're
a
right.
caveat.
Now I'm not saying you're wrong because you're right about the media pushing this stereotype.
Mhm.
But when did anger become toxic? And when do you have to say, well, you need to tone that down? Because there's that, like you said, white people can be angry all day long.
You've been in those meetings. You've been in those meetings
been
on
in
those calls.
I've been in meetings
It's
where
not going to work.
executives have been like using language that
Friday
you use in
language.
the street,
not
right?
business
You think we're in the
appropriate.
club somewhere, and I'm going, and I'm sitting there looking like, y'all okay with this? You know,
Just
and
business.
you're gonna do, and
It's just business.
we at work, man. You know,
They're
Nah,
okay with it.
yeah.
You try it
you
if
know,
you want to.
I had to tell one of them, like, hey, I don't respond to that. So tone it down, because we at work. I mean, come on now, we not, you know. So
Then after the meet, I didn't like the way Carl said that.
absolutely.
Can I talk to
absolutely.
HR?
And I can tell you for a certainty,
I like to speak
I
to
wasn't at
HR.
that job much longer after that.
I have to seek a complaint.
Because I'm not,
I felt intimidated.
and I'm not going to take that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But even so I grew up in a house where, and my brothers and I joke about it, but my father yelled at us every day, all day.
That's how he showed y'all he loved you.
But it got to, and it wasn't a degrading type of, yelling. It was more so that's how he communicated.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, so we got used to it. Now, I can't do that. I have daughters.
Gotta watch
If
your
I
tone.
communicate, I gotta watch my tone. They say it all the time. It's not what you're saying, it's how you say it.
Bingo.
It's how you say. So I can be, displaying toxic masculinity trait, because I tell them, I'm not yelling at you because I'm mad or I'm just, that's how I'm communicating. Well, it doesn't seem like that, and it seems
I
that
feel.
So that's why I said women are gonna start. They're just trying to define what this is.
How far does that go?
It doesn't go. It doesn't go, because if you are a man, you have to define yourself. And here's the thing.
But you gotta ask the woman what a real man is first.
A man's man.
And again, I'm gonna circle back. You want to see me get angry and get
devil's
loud?
advocate. Real man
Tell
is gonna...
me how to act.
When you try to tell me how you ain't no real man. See that, and unfortunately, that's how violence happens.
Well, that and
toxic masculinity.
That and when you say something bad about my mama.
Those things,
a real man would take the insult.
And see, that's the thing.
See, we gonna get to how we can resolve some of these issues of toxic masculinity.
And I want to circle back to you. When you said this earlier, I wanted to circle back to it. Homosexuality and homophobia, so to speak.
You don't want the alphabet crew after you.
No, and I'm not. I don't think
this one out.
I don't think. No, I don't think. I don't think I would. I was gonna say, a lot of people growing up, if somebody was gay or perceived to be gay, a man, we would not say that they're masculine.
Not at all.
We would say that they're, as an adult, I do know some homosexual men that you don't want to fight.
Yeah.
Because
they're not gonna windmill you. They're gonna knock your ass out.
You would get embarrassed.
Kill shot.
You would get embarrassed. And it's and I kind of learned this or heard this. My father told this story when we were young. He told it a couple times. He grew up in a neighborhood. There was an apartment building, and he said it was a lot of homosexual men that lived in this apartment building. And one day, him and his friends were going through an alley, and like a couple of them were hanging out the window, talking to each other or whatever. And you know how kids do. Well, ghetto kids do. They were throwing bottles up in the air and letting them hit the ground and bust.
Remember that?
You know that kind of stuff.
Wasn't bothering nobody.
Right. So he said one of his friends threw a bottle up in the air, came down, hit one of the guys across the head, knocked him out. And he's hanging out the window. So the rest of the guys were looking and it's like, who did that? So they see them. So they start, so they run. He said they run and they come around the street. And he said it was, and he used a different word, but
can't say that one.
Wait a minute, start with F.
Right. It was about 10 or 15 of them running out the apartment building, chasing them down the street. Now they didn't stop and say, "Oh, these is homosexual men. We gonna fight." They said, "Oh no,
run!
We up out of here."
these S words.
So he always that's the word he used. That's the word he used. But his point was, they still a man. It's still a man.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying?
Biologically,
you do what you want to do behind closed door, but that's still a man. We had to get up out of there. So I've always kept that in my mind, and like I said, through life experience and working with guys, I'm like, oh, that's a big dude. Now he might come through and he's hanging out at If you're in Detroit, you'll know. He might be at Minjo's on Friday night.
Man, that chicken is.
But
I don't know if it's still good or not. But I'm back.
But he ain't gonna. I ain't messing with the guy. Not like that.
You know better.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, correct.
So I just think that we need to, stop saying that if they're homosexual, they're not. That takes away from masculinity, and that's a whole nother discussion on how you feel about it. And again, I hate that word homophobia because it says that I'm scared of something. I ain't scared of nothing.
Yeah, the phobia is the fear of,
Yeah,
and
I'm
again,
not
that term
scared.
has been.
Even if I say I don't agree with, if anybody don't agree with that lifestyle or whatever the case is, I'm not scared because the thing is, I'll have a conversation with you,
Yeah,
and I'll be able to see you as a man.
Yeah. And hell, while we at it, most of us got at least one or two in our family.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have no problem.
And that's the thing when you know them and you're like, okay, and it's with anything. I don't care how you feel about them. Unfortunately, black folks had one or two crackheads in their family.
Yeah,
they had one or two thieves in their family. You know what I'm saying?
Through no fault of our own,
right?
But
And
it is what it is.
You. Hey, how you doing? Gonna keep your stuff tight, but otherwise,
invite them over to the house. You just put up everything.
You gotta watch them. Don't let them go back to that back room. But
different strokes for different folks.
Right, so
when we talking about the toxic masculinity and black men and how it's affected us from a mental health aspect, I say that because just like I talked about how slavery has affected us, I think even going full circle when we talk about the reluctance for us as African American men to seek out mental health or just health, period.
Yeah.
Now, historically, you look back, and I have to say, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think about the distrust that our ancestors had with the white man. So to me, it stands to reason that I'm not going to the doctor because I see what he's doing when he close up shop. He put his hood on and he out here pilfering and raping and killing us. But y'all want me to go see him and put my health in his
that's a good point.
It's not going to work like that. And I think even today, there's still remnants of that. We talk, hell, when COVID and the vaccine hit.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all didn't know not a damn thing about the Tuskegee experiment.
Everybody was yelling, Tuskegee!
Exactly. So now all of a sudden,
PTSD.
I don't want to do, but you've been taking vaccinations since you were a kid. And I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't historically be afraid to seek out help. Now we know things are different.
Yeah.
But, I think about, we would always hear coming up, Carl, I ain't got to go to the doctor. Our uncles and stuff didn't go to the doctor because number one, I think they didn't trust them. But number two, being the provider, the sole provider sometimes in the house, I can't afford to not go to work to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So you at home self-medicating, with you 3-6s, all of this stuff. You just doing all kind of stuff.
Father John.
Father John.
And
Buckley's.
Turpentine and sugar.
They
hot toddy to top it off.
And now because they put in, when they talk about toxic masculinity, they talk about the how we grew up, of course. So now you're looking at how your parents influenced you. Boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. Get up, you can go on over there, so on and so forth. So you develop this reluctance to seek out help because that's the way that you've been brought up. And here recently, when we talk about mental health in our community, it's been staggering. I looked up some numbers. We talk about mental health, got to talk about suicide. In our community, suicide rates are off the charts. For instance, for young men, and this was a study done back in 2020, young men 14 to 19, suicide was the third leading cause of death. For young men 20 to 29, it was the 8th cause of death. So do we call that an epidemic?
What year was this?
This was done in 2020, 2021.
So growing up, it was suicide, and I was young. It was told to me that was not a black thing.
Because you know why? You ain't getting into heaven.
Yeah.
Give yourself.
Grandma said you can't do that.
Yep.
Yeah. So we didn't kill ourselves. We didn't commit suicide like the traditional way. But what you do when you look back on it, when you had your uncles and fathers, grandfathers, whatever, they were committing suicide slowly. They drank a lot.
Mhm.
They indulged in risky behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So it was like I really don't care about myself. I don't care
Delayed.
whether I live or die. And I'm just gonna go through this period. Now,
Well, why do you think that was though, that they felt that way?
well, the pressures,
Stresses,
And if
etc.
they don't care about me, then I don't care about
that, all of that.
Okay.
And it was I can't. I might not be able to provide for my family like I want to.
Mhm.
I might not be able to give my wife what she expects, or so I have a couple of outlets. I can either take it out on them through physicalities or neglect or abuse, or I can take it out on myself through self-medication. Now it's become where you know I don't want to, and I've said this behind closed doors, but I'll say it: Black folks trying to be like white folks, and we just gonna commit suicide like they do, and it's like
They doing it.
and I think the first time I heard about somebody young committing suicide, I want to say I was in college,
Mhm.
and a friend of mine in college said that he knew somebody that had committed suicide, and I was like, they our age, really?
Taboo.
I didn't understand. And then fast forward, I had what was it, 2002, I think, maybe 1 or 2. I had an uncle commit suicide.
Mm.
And when and the way it was funny because it's not funny, but
Fam suicide ain't
yeah,
funny.
it's not funny. But what happened was my father calls me and said, your uncle shot himself. And I said, is he dead? And he was like, yeah. And I said, he shot himself on purpose? And he was like, yeah. Like, and I'm going, because I couldn't even think like,
Couldn't fathom.
I couldn't feel like, wait a minute.
Mm.
You shot yourself on, wait a minute, And it was somebody that always was smiling, he was always jovial.
Mhm.
And we really don't know why. We have a suspicion why, but don't know for a fact because he didn't leave a note. He just woke up one day and took himself out. So that again can be considered toxic. He didn't express himself.
Ding, 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 ding.
So do you think though, had he been able to talk to somebody, whether it's a professional or, even a trusted friend?
You brought up the slavery aspect, and I think it goes a little deeper to just a mistrust of white people and mistrust of doctors. We were told, or we have an innate. Okay, we're the people that were brought here from Africa that survived the Middle Passage are the strongest of the strong. We need to understand that.
Oh yeah.
You bring us here, you do everything you can to break us. You whip us, you chain us, you do all that kind of stuff. Generationally, even till today, we don't want to show you that you're winning. So you can put 40 lashes on my back. They're gonna do just like Denzel in Glory. I'm sitting there and take it. Which is where they would, the slave masters would get the idea of, well, they have a different pain tolerance. No.
So we gonna ratchet it up. We're gonna try something else.
Mentally, I'm not gonna let you see that I'm hurting. So that's a generational thing. And I think with men in particular, I'm not gonna let you see that I'm hurting.
Oh yeah.
So
Agreed.
I don't want to go to the doctor because that shows weakness. I don't want to talk to a trusted friend because I don't think that I don't know what and this is what we'll get, and it's people will say this kind of stuff, and I've seen memes about it. I can pour out my heart, and your friend will be like, "Man, you be all right."
Yeah, because that's what we've been
Because that's what we've been taught.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
And that's
of doing
not what
that.
you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? That's not what you're looking to get.
And then what that does is it dissuades you from bringing up anything else because number one, you don't think anybody cares. Number two, you don't think they're gonna understand. And number three, you ain't gonna be able to help me.
And it's not that they don't want to. They just don't have it. They don't have the tools to do that. Because guess what?
Exactly.
They probably want to do the same thing.
All the time, little you know.
So
I think too that when we talk about, our community, because we all are subject matter experts at being Black,
think so.
Yeah,
I've been black most of my life.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Been out here for a while.
got a couple of degrees in it. So,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to get past some of that, and how do we get past some of that? I mean, I think one of the things that we have to do, and like we talked about, facing our fears on the previous show, fam, go back and check it out. But we have to challenge ourselves, challenge the stereotypes, because I know I fight against the angry black man thing all the time. And you know what makes me angry?
What?
Calling me an angry black man.
Ironic, right?
No, don't do that, because I'm,
It's like telling a woman to calm down.
Oh, you can't. You're not supposed to do that.
You can't do, but you can't tell a man, because you can't tell a man that either. You can't tell him again. If I'm expressing myself, I'm expressing I can be perceived as the angry black man, but when you tell me to calm down, I'm not
the
even
first
hyped
thing
yet.
you're gonna say is, I ain't hype.
Right.
I'm not telling me to calm down for.
I'm not even hyped yet. So now you're telling me to calm down, because
now I'm about to turn up.
Now you're trying to put me in my place. And like I said, if a man says that to a woman, that's a toxic trait.
One of the things too that I thought about is
we can't do nothing.
You always hear about
trash.
See, you always hear about
here.
communication and say open communication, but I've thought about, what's that term they call safe spaces, creating safe spaces and stuff. I think a lot of times with us as black men, we don't want to be vulnerable because we see that as a sign of weakness, and yet that's another trait of toxic masculinity.
What is that really
toxic? For me, well, no, because I think what it does is, if you don't talk about it, then you're internalizing. And when we internalize, at some point, it's going to bubble up. And you're going to ask me to, turn the hot water on, and I'm going to snap. I ain't turning no damn hot water, so
I don't know.
Creating, but here's what I see with that, and just in talking to people, whether it's a partner, well, most of the time partner, because I tell people all the time, with my boys, we talk. We can normally give each other advice, and we don't have to, go through all of this rigmarole.
I want to see where you're going, where I'm thinking, because go again.
But the thing is when you're with your partner, a lot of times as men,
lean into the mic.
Lean
in.
What we see is we will share things, and where we think we're being vulnerable and we think it's a safe space, everything is fine until something, let's say a concern, pops up later on down the road. Then a lot of times, the woman in your life, your wife, your girlfriend you're dealing with, a lot of times, I'm not generalizing and saying it's everybody, but a lot of times women will bring up that time when you were being vulnerable. Now, what we see that as a dig. Wait a minute, hold on. You throwing daggers?
Yeah, it's weaponized now.
I told you that in confidence. What the hell you gonna bring that up? And then a lot of times it's brought up at the most inopportune moment. So I say, how do we get past, wanting to be vulnerable and openly communicating, if we feel like, okay, because my thing is, if it's happened once, then it's there. I'm not gonna forget that.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think men open up, some men, in those type of cases, they'll make themselves vulnerable either too quickly or to the wrong person.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Is it the wrong person?
I agree 200%.
If you're in a committed relationship, if you're in a marriage, or if you're in a relationship that's heading toward a lifelong commitment, I think a man will feel much more comfortable being vulnerable.
Agreed.
A lot of times you've got men who are dating, and the woman might say, and women are going to they'll tell you a whole lot of stuff that you don't even ask. Just up front. I mean,
that's what they do.
Right, that's what they
share.
do. They're very communicative. So they're going to tell you all kind of stuff. And a man might, try to think that it's being, okay, I'm going to be open too and share something. Next thing you know, her girlfriend is saying, oh yeah, I know you don't like the roses, like they make you cry, so I'm not going to. Wait a minute. How do you?
Who told you?
Who told you?
Hey,
I mean, what are you talking about?
That's when the pillow talk is out there.
Right, but I mean,
now I got to holler at you.
So
on the
now,
side.
now that man is gonna shut down, like you said, for any future relationship.
Stonewall becomes stoic.
I'm not gonna say anything because, and And they'll say, you know, men will do this too.
Running your damn mouth.
Women talk too much. Well, no, that woman talked too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it was on you too, because you shared information. You opened yourself up to the wrong person.
We were being trusting, you know. The
Too soon to be
sex was
trusting.
good. She looked good every time I see her.
That's that
and I'm
doggone.
just
That's that doggone toxic femininity. That's what we need to label that as. That exists too, but
absolutely.
So again, because I've been in that situation, like you were saying, you're in a relationship, committed,
opened up, and
you decide to be vulnerable, and then I don't know, 2-3 weeks later, that gets thrown in your face, and you like, wait a minute,
is that what we doing?
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute, you're a little confused.
Now I know I got to take mental notes with you.
Exactly. And then it creates that. But again, is that being toxic masculinity, or is that a byproduct of having the wrong person interacting with, and so on and so forth?
That's a toxic behavior on the point of that.
So that's why I say if we throw out toxic masculinity, I'm an equal opportunity employer. We need to throw toxic femininity out there.
You're not a subject matter expert in being a woman, right?
But how come? Okay, and
that's why I'm gonna respond to that though. But that's why
But why can't I say what a real woman can and can't do?
Because you don't know nothing about being a woman.
Why can't I do that?
But you, just like a woman can't tell a man, I can't tell a woman.
Oh, that sounds fair.
That
sounds fair.
I'm not gonna tell.
I like fairness,
and I would never do that. I would never tell a woman,
a real woman.
As a woman, you should be doing. I'm not gonna. You know, I'm
gonna
tell you what I expect.
Coming out my mouth. A real
I'm gonna tell you
woman
what I
would.
expect, but I can't tell you what you should and shouldn't do.
Exactly. So we talk about solutions to people that, you know, have toxic masculinity behavior. Another one, and we've already touched on it, was seeking professional help. You know, we all know that that's a good thing. I think because a lot of times it's learned behavior, you want to break that cycle, then we have to make sure that we're talking to these younger guys coming up. You know, because not only that, but you know, because of the way that things are the narrative that's being pushed, they think that stuff is normal. You know, they see the rap videos where the rapper is pouring champagne on the stripper and, you know, throwing money at her and all this other stuff. So, okay, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. So but we have to step up and say, no, that's not how you do it.
So
you know,
here's where I'm glad we got to that part. So we are going to be filling a void left by a father in that regard, to me. Because a father is the one that's supposed to be able to create what a man is. And I think that there's been, and we've done shows on this about fatherhood and how there's an absence of fathers, because what we are the unk. And the unk culture is what's creating these false ideas of manhood. So I'll give you an example. An unk is going to tell you something slick to say to get a woman. A father is going to teach you how to keep that woman. An unk is going to tell you a way to hustle and get some money. A father is going to teach you how to keep that money and invest it. So as the unks, we have to realize that we have to bridge that gap now, because a lot of these young people don't have fathers, men and women. They don't have they didn't have fathers in their lives. So it's like, okay, I can't be the unk that'll be like, yeah, nephew, yeah, you need to do this, da. Okay, well, he has nothing to bounce that off of, because the father might have told him something a little different. But if you got nothing to bounce that off of, now you're looking at the unks and you're looking at your peers. And then that's when you create all of this false ideas of what it is to be.
Influence. So I just thought about some, Carl, you talked about, you know, women having or not having a father in their life. Do you think that contributes to the women that want to tell us or want to tell their mates how to be a man?
Absolutely.
Because they got daddy issues and daddy wasn't there. So this is their idea of what a man should be. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to help you. So I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to tell you what a man should, what you can do is tell me what you expect. You can't tell me what a man, and again, and this was, like I said, this was the conversation me and my daughter had for a good long time. Like, because her example was, I said, if a woman is raised by a single mother, she comes into a position to say, well, you should be doing it. How you going to tell me? You can't tell me anything. She was like, so my daughter was saying, well, that's not fair. What if she had a grandfather and her grandfather,
What if she
she, and I said, okay,
Big Daddy wasn't there all the time.
but Big Daddy's generation was a totally different. And the example I
But
gave
grandpa
was,
paid all the bills and did this and that, and grandma ain't
Okay.
have to do nothing, and
Hey.
grandpa was cutting wood.
that's
I'ma
exactly,
just
that's
stop.
exactly,
I'ma just
no,
stop.
that's exactly the
I'ma
example I
stop.
used. And I said, grandpa did all that stuff and he worked at the plant in the late 60s, early 70s, bought a house. They had 2 cars on the A plan, did all that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
Fast forward to today, now you expect a man is supposed to pay all the bills like my granddad did with my grandmother.
Yeah, that's what they telling me, Carl.
And the house cost $500,000.
That's
That's what they
you?
telling me, Carl.
Car costs $100,000.
That's what they
you want to
that's
lay
what
up
they
at
telling
home?
me.
And you want to be treated like your grandmother?
That's what I'm hearing.
And
Wait
that's
a minute,
what I'm
but here's
saying.
the thing though. They're not gonna be cooking like grandma. They're not gonna be cleaning like grandma. They ain't gonna be doing none of that stuff.
Because they,
But it don't matter
'cause
because
guess what?
grandpa paid the bills back then.
And see, that's what I'm
grandpa was
saying.
doing everything.
So fast
but
forward,
we forgot
you
grandpa had
raised
a
by the
second
single
family.
mother. The single mother saw her father do it.
Paw.
But the single mother wasn't cooking. She was working. They went to McDonald's. They did all this other kind of stuff. You was raised on fast food and crab bags. So now all of a sudden, you want to
Crab
tell
bags,
me,
them expensive.
oh yeah, Benihana's and all the,
Seafood boil? Wait a
seafood
minute.
boils. That's how, so you expect to
$75
be,
for a bag. hey?
lobster tails and
Oh,
and
that sound
surf,
good.
surf and turf for lunch and all this kind of stuff. You should be sending me money for my lunch. All right, here's $10.
You can't. That's not enough.
You can get 2 biggie bags.
No, that's not enough.
And
You
a
gotta
frosty
send
for
$100.
$10.
Get you a Happy Meal and stretch it.
Right. So I mean, let's kind of look at this in a lens of, if you're trying to tell me what it is to be a man, you have no reference.
Yes, they do.
You don't.
Grandpa.
IG.
Grandpa is not. IG is your reference.
Grandpa and TikTok.
What you expect is your reference, but it's not. You can't tell me how to be a man, and
But
I'm gonna stand 10 toes on
They
it.
gonna
There you go.
manifest it, Carl.
Whatever.
On the vision board.
There you
Mhm.
go.
Now what? Check me.
Well, what we talked about it earlier. We kind of hinted at it, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention the others. So when you talk about white men and toxic masculinity, I will say this, and we'll go from here. Every trait that I found that I've listed as toxic masculinity, I can think of that being white culture. As a matter of fact, we have someone who is heading our government. What is it, 47?
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you that joker hit every box on every trait of toxic masculinity, from being aggressive to trying to have power over people, violence against women. We have a convicted felon that's in the White House. And if that isn't the poster child for toxic masculinity, I don't know what it is. I think also hate groups, they are spurned from this. They have come to be, and I'm not, putting it out here to besmirch any particular group. However, we talk about people that are uneducated, and how they're easily sucked into, a particular narrative.
Yeah.
Toxic
Happens.
masculinity for the white folks. They've been rejected, or so they feel, demeaned, or so they feel, because they see us as a threat. They see, black and brown people as a threat. If you're not white, they ain't got nothing for you. But the men are, I think it starts at home, as we've
Yeah.
said. But one of the things I thought about too in looking at this is that's where racism starts.
Well, yeah. Have you ever seen
Mhm.
a racist baby?
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah."
Oh, dang. You got to teach the baby first to be racist.
No,
Baby don't just come out.
Baby looked at you and start crying.
It didn't just come out the womb
Boy, ain't
racist.
talking about monkey. Yeah.
I mean, a toddler maybe, but not a baby.
Man,
You see where
look.
I'm going.
Again, I say it's taught.
That's where I was going.
I have to wonder though, if this whole thing about toxic masculinity will get better. I know for us, we have the power to do it, but for, the white men, they don't want to get better. They're where they want to be. And it kills me because, again, we just did a show about, Trump's first quarter, and nothing that he's done has benefited anyone other than billionaires. Nothing.
So we go back to what B said. I don't think there such thing as toxic masculinity. Because what you're describing,
No, I'm saying no.
what you're describing are toxic behaviors by a man.
And some
But that's just,
misogynistic
but see,
behaviors.
and that's just it though.
But it's being accepted.
Right. And what I see is, that's his idea of what a man's supposed. His father, I'm pretty sure, just dogged him. I mean, just you're not a man. You're not. So in his mind, he was mean to me. He told me what a man is. So this is what the behavior that I saw my father going through. That's what I'm gonna do. He's got ex-wives. He was just the lady won a case for sexual assault. All of these things. He talking about grabbing women by the
hoo-ha.
Yeah. So, I say in his mind, that's what being a man is, being tough. What did he say once? He never apologizes.
And he never had to repent either.
Yeah.
And man.
Don't believe he telling y'all to drink bleach to clear out COVID. Don't believe the vaccine. It don't work. And who was the first person to get it? Him and his wife. So I say all that to say I feel sorry for white men. I really do. I mean, and I say that with all sincerity, fam, because you talk about lost. They don't know. They going out the world ass backwards. And they think that they got all the answers.
But that's their view of and so that's what I'm saying. If that's the view of masculinity
For them,
when did it become toxic?
so I think it's always been toxic. But
when did it become labeled as toxic?
We have
the
these
million-dollar
phrases though.
question.
We have these phrases, these social constructs, just like white and black. Really? But I think that's what's driven it. Just the fact that society is, hey, here's a new word, let's use it. And
Clickbait.
took it and ran with it. So, I think that there are several things that we can do here in our community to change. Whether you believe in toxic masculinity or not, I think that there's work to be done. What would be your final word on this, since we gonna wrap this up?
Again, I don't believe there's a toxic masculinity out there. I believe there are people striving for masculinity. Some may excel there, some may suffer there. There might be the random incel, and there's the red pill movement. We could go all into that. But
based on whose definition, though?
Again, these are all social constructs, down from red pill, incel to toxic masculinity. Those are all constructs that I believe, and it's your word versus mine, right? That's the way I look at it. So do what you want to do, live your life. That's how I look at it. I'm going to do it.
We got work to do, fam. I know. And in our community, we all overall, everybody, but we can take charge. We can take control, and change, what's going on, especially with these young boys. We got to get them. We have to make a change. So, Carl, let me ask you, what would be your solution?
Sir?
No, I think we kind of said it. We have to first define what masculinity is. Define what it is and what it isn't. And then also, like you said, bridge that gap with the younger demographic. I think that we have to draw on what we saw from historical perspectives and bring that into today. I think a lot of that, particularly with us, that's why there's a big push to ban history, basically, in this country.
Whitewash.
Thank you. Whitewash history.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be this narrative, and that's it. And for the Black community, that narrative is long and winding. And a lot of reasons, like you said, through slavery is the way we got to where we are today. We need to learn that. And if you learn where you got the behavior from, then you can better address the current behavior. And I know, you learn that through therapy. Mm-hmm. Where did these ideas come from? Okay, well, now we can kind of work on correcting those ideas. And I think that we have to do that historically rather than just say, again, because it'll be toxic if I say, well, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. Okay, now I'm just attributing my ideas onto you, but it needs to come from a bigger perspective so you can learn and then make sure that you make those pivots.
Agreed.
I agree wholeheartedly. Nothing else to say, fam, but stay prayerful, stay positive, stay patient, stay peaceful. See you guys next time.